but I was on that plane to go do devious things. I wasn't on a humanitarian aid
I see.
effort.
I see.
So
You're
there
like,
was a lot
God
of
knows what's in my heart. He don't like it. He's gonna strike me down.
yeah, a lot of
Hey,
Catholic guilt. a lot of
yeah, I was gonna say, I love that we're not religious people, but you're just like you defaulted because that's what isn't that what happened? Like former religious people, former people who are like turned away from the church. Whenever something really bad is happening, you're like, oh, God got me. God gonna me up.
He's back.
He's back. Oh,
This is Friends Partying in Hell, and I'm joined today with my friend of over 60 years. You've been my friend for 60 years. That's how old we are. We don't look it. We use a lot of moisturizer. And
okay.
Anthony, I know you use cocoa butter. It's not a racist thing. It's just
That
something that you
is
do.
no. Nah, it
Welcome
is
to Friends
racist because
Partying
it's something
Hell.
I don't do. It's totally racist.
Welcome to Friends Partying Hell. One more time. I am Rudy, and I am joined today with Anthony. And I take that back, Anthony. That was not nice of me to say.
It's
But
okay. I see you over there itching, dry skin ass. You
I
don't use
know,
lotion
yeah.
at all.
I was
Yeah, you
gonna
don't
say,
use
I was
lotion at all.
gonna
You over
say.
there, scratch that arm. Look at them white flakes, bro. Come on, maybe you need cocoa butter, nigga. I'm sorry, brown nigga.
I deserve that. I
Yeah, you do.
fully deserve your ire right now, Anthony.
Yeah.
Let's talk today about a couple of present things. I always
Okay.
take this time to chat with you to talk about how broken the world is. And of course, the week didn't disappoint. Uh, before we get into all that stuff, just kind of like want to pick your brain. How are you feeling? How are you dealing? How are you feeling? What's up with it? What makes you tick, Anthony?
I nothing really these days, though. I don't care. I just don't care.
You're really
It's
apathetic towards a lot of
yeah.
things.
At this point, like how can you not be, bro? Like we've done. My God, we look in my lifetime. We've been through two wars, a financial crisis, a
Right.
plague.
Right.
Like, bro, it's enough. I'm done. I'm
And
done.
you forgot 9/11 there.
9/11. Yeah, well, that was the cause of one of the wars. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You
Like at this
you
point,
also didn't mention the time where Ashley Simpson's mic didn't work on SNL and she had to lip sync and her thing kept going
that's
and they had
true.
to
That
cut.
happened.
That was very traumatic
That happened.
for a lot of
Avril
people.
Lavigne finding out she was Canadian. That happened.
A
Like
lot of stuff
it was
happened.
it's been a ride, it's been a roller coaster, and at some point you're just like, this isn't thrilling anymore. This roller coaster is no longer, I
Get
don't
me
want to put
off.
yeah, like I don't want to raise my hands and scream anymore. I just kind of want to scream. So you just turn away from it and just like focus on what's inside.
Well, one of the things that happened this week at the top
Mm.
is this fucking airplane crash, which I'm already so terrified of flying.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
did I
you
ever
are.
tell you how that started? Like, it was like an actual like trauma moment that happened. I wasn't always afraid of flying. Like, there
Okay.
was I was in college and I took a trip out west and I was, like fucking broke. So I think it was probably a Spirit Air flight or something. I don't know what it was,
That
like some red eye
tracks.
bullshit.
That tracks. Yeah.
And we were taking off at like midnight, and it was raining here. And the second we get up
Mm.
into the sky, and I don't, God knows where we were at that point. Maybe like 30 minutes later, dude, the thunder and lightning that was outside of that airplane was
Oh
so
god.
terrifying, and the shaking. And I was just like, holy fuck, I'm gonna die. Because, I'm not gonna give myself away too much. But I was on that plane to go do devious things. I wasn't on a humanitarian aid
I see.
effort.
I see.
So
You're
there
like,
was a lot
God
of
knows what's in my heart. He don't like it. He's gonna strike me down.
yeah, a lot of
Hey,
Catholic guilt. a lot of
yeah, I was gonna say, I love that we're not religious people, but you're just like you defaulted because that's what isn't that what happened? Like former religious people, former people who are like turned away from the church. Whenever something really bad is happening, you're like, oh fuck, God got me. God gonna fuck me up.
He's back.
He's back. Oh, no. that guilt never goes nowhere, bro. The
No,
church really
dude,
fucking saw about that.
I legit was praying to God. I was like, God, you know what I'm gonna do, and I was like, how am I gonna live these last moments? I was so terrified, dude, because that thing was shaking, and mind you, so this is like super late at night, and it's dark too. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
depending on how you fly, when you fly, I've most of my life taken day uh, flights. So you see the sun out, it's warm, inviting, but
Yeah.
the dark coldness of the night sky was terrifying. I was just like, I can't see shit. Like the shit's
Oh boy.
shaking. And oh my god, dude! It was the thoughts that went through my mind, dude. I was like, if I make it out of here, like
Bargaining with God, I promise.
I'm gonna
I won't
change.
do what
Yeah,
I was going to plan to do.
yeah. And
I'll be
so,
so good as soon as I touch that. I'll go to church. I pray. I swear to God, baby, love, please, sweet baby Jesus. I'm not gonna touch that girl. I'm not gonna touch her. I'm not. I'll take her to church with me. God, just please let me land in LA.
so
I'm, I'm so sorry to laugh at your trauma like that.
no, it's fair. I brought that on myself. Like, and then until this day, I still carry that. I still carry it because I was never scared of flying before that moment.
Before that,
Ever. I was never,
yeah,
even with turbulence or none of that. Like, never.
yeah,
And then all of
yeah.
a sudden, I'm like, you start questioning how this thing is even in the air. I was like, just the thermodynamics of this thing. I was like questioning the science. I'm like, how?
Aerodynamics, but yes.
Oh yeah, the aerodynamics of this thing and the physics of this, like the known world. I was like, how the fuck is this 100-ton thing in the air right now? Like, this isn't.
You became a mathematician and a philosopher, and it's been a blink of an eye. You're just like starting to think about the
Yeah, no,
logistics of it all. You're like, it don't make sense. Get
it
me out of
doesn't,
here.
man. It still doesn't. It's still every time
God,
I
how
get on the
dare I
plane.
defy you by getting on this evil contraption? I
Yeah,
renounce
well,
this plane.
yeah,
I renounce technology.
I literally became a heretic and a hermit in a span of like 10 seconds.
Oh, that's
Denounce
fucking
all
great.
technology because it was an affront to God, and spitting in his face that we would dare defy him in in his creations.
Man was never meant to fly. Oh my god, dog. All
Yeah.
right, that's
So
fantastic. That's a great
yeah. So
story. Can I ask? Because you were younger? I know you were
yeah.
wild when you were young. Were you like high by any chance? Were you on anything?
Damn, that's a good question. I want to say. I want to say probably was. Yeah. I want to
I would
say
assume
it
because
probably
I've known you
was.
for a long time and you've never reacted like that. And we've been in some hairy situations. You know what I mean? And I've never seen you like freak out that way. So I would just
No, I
assume
don't. I
you're pretty cool,
if
calm,
if my
collected guy.
if my monotone voice is any indication of how I like react to the world, is that
Exactly.
I'm pretty level on
Chill.
on all
Yeah.
ways. Yeah. My brain's going a mile a minute, but like the output is like way different. No, I was freaking out. Yeah, I probably did get high probably before I flew. Most
That makes
likely.
sense. Yeah,
Most
flying in the
likely.
middle of the night, the day's already
Yeah,
gone. You
or
probably had
maybe
a
had
few
a couple
beers or
drinks
yeah,
yeah,
a couple drinks. You
definitely.
smoke some with the friends, and then hey man, drop me off at the airport. Drop you off at the airport. You get in the
100%.
plane, does a little shaky
Like,
shake, and then you become a religious zealot.
yeah, I mean, yeah. I was in college, so like I was definitely partying. I wasn't, you know,
Exactly. I mean, you're
sober
taking a red
totally.
eye flight. That's because you had plans to party that day. That's any red eye flight I've ever taken was
Right.
we're partying in the day. I'm gonna hop on the plane. I'm gonna get where I'm going, and then the party's gonna continue, right? Like sometimes you pick me up, and then you have a beer in the car already, and it's like, yep, I need another one, like that kind of thing. So I would
Yeah.
assume you were doing something like that, except there was a woman
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
other end, who
I
you
wasn't in my
in that
senses.
moment suddenly was like that she's a devil lady, and that's why this is happening.
Not worth it.
My
Yeah,
intentions
not
are
worth
yeah, my intentions are to defile this poor
it.
person, and God is not happy about that.
After the podcast, I'll tell you who that person is because
Yes, please.
the weight of what I was doing affected other, like it was a big deal. It was like a big deal. You know what I mean? It wasn't just I was gonna go see someone. I was seeing someone, and it was someone that I shouldn't have gone to go
I
be seeing.
figured. I figured. When you said go out west, I kind of figured. I put the dots. I connected the dots,
Yeah.
and so did God, because God was like, "Hey, man, hey,
You
straighten
think
up,
you
bro."
think you think I'm taking a break right now? I'm God. I'm everywhere.
I'm watching, bro. I know you're chill, dog. That's a good person. Stop being this way.
Listen,
Yeah,
if there
yeah.
is any evidence that God doesn't exist, is Trump being in office, because
Mm,
that devil
mm.
is
Preach,
the worst
preach.
the worst thing that has ever befallen, like, the political parties, the media, like everything. He's just like a
Yeah.
poison. He's like a bloated corpse in the river of society, and we all drink from
Jesus.
it.
Whether you want to or not, huh?
Whether, yeah, there's no Brita filter for that shit. You're at all.
Boy, I love that.
So,
Uh,
uh,
Vivid picture, vivid
so
imagery.
there's obviously the crash that just happened, which happened at like midnight, right? It was like, oh, no, not at midnight, at night. It was like a 9 p.m. flight or something like that, into a really
I don't
busy.
know. Yeah,
It was at night. It was a really
yeah.
busy part of the country, obviously the capital. A lot of ins and outs, a lot of things, moving around. It's a capital. It's a very busy, bustling
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
And now, mind you, this is a very really rare thing, just in general. Like with airplane crashes, statistically one of the like safest forms of travel. Which I know there's data backing that up, but I never
You don't
feel
feel
that
it.
way.
You don't feel that way anymore. Ever
That
since,
I
ever since,
yeah,
yeah,
every yeah
you tried
yeah
to
ever
deliver that devil dick. You're like, nah, it ain't safe. I'll just drive. If I can't drive to you, I ain't coming.
yeah. If the gas prices ain't right, I'm not going. Um,
Yeah.
so there's that. So this happened, and you like news starts coming out that it was a Black Hawk. So then it's like a military thing, and then people
Hmm.
start kind of putting the pieces together stupidly, because all of a sudden people think they're an authority on the environment and firefighting and the fires out in the West. All of a sudden people figure out that they can figure out like flight paths and the
Oh,
nuances of air
oh,
travel and all
yeah,
this shit. So
yeah,
people start
yeah.
kind of piecing dumb conspiracy theories together, and then this fuckface comes on national TV and starts talking about it too. So can I play that piece for you?
Yes, please.
Standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. Only the highest aptitude, they have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on. And then when I left office, and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's
This is a good one.
diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That
That's
is amazing.
insane.
And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they want them. They can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. Put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program.
So he ends up talking about dwarves being part of the the diversity
Does he
hires.
really?
Yeah,
What
it
is
goes on.
wrong with
I'm not
this
gonna play the. I'm not
man?
gonna play the whole thing. You want to go look at you want to go look at what he actually says. Go do that, because
Yeah,
he,
yeah.
but he talks
But
about. dwarves. He talks about so his whole um his whole thinking is that
Hmm.
the reason why this happened is because too many diverse people, which is
Yeah.
dog whistles for black people and brown people and
Who
anyone
he
that's
straight
not
up
a white
called
guy.
he called it a mental disability too. He said these people are all mentally disabled. So he's like DEI hires just the most crazy people you could think of, and then it's just like, what are you talking? I know Pete Davis. Was it Pete Davidson? Was it that he said Trump can't read?
Mhm,
Right? Like he was the one that said Trump can't read, right? So it's just
mhm.
funny to me because I want to see what was on that paper. I want to see what was written on that because what he said was definitely not written on that fucking paper, bro. He clearly wasn't reading. He was just ad libbing at this point. He's like, I recognize that word. All right, I'm gonna say this. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So I think a lot of people misunderstand what DIE
DEI.
hiring DEI hiring means.
Hmm.
So much so that I can't even pronounce it right. So do you know what it means? And
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think
well,
that's what
what
it
the
means.
actual yeah, but what the actual like what's the actual like practice put in motion? What does that actually mean? You know?
I honestly do not know. I
Okay.
do not know. I don't think I've been if it was supposed to be helping me out, I didn't. I never got that help, bro. It never reached me, dog, and I needed it. I needed it last year, dog. Like you needed it too. Like, did it help you?
No.
No. Okay. So these boys screaming about boogeymen, dog. Like I don't know. No, I don't know, nan nigga, dog. That was like, oh damn, I just got this really good paying ass DEI job. I got to leave my 60K a year place and I got a DEI job at 85 a year. Like nobody. I don't know
No,
nobody.
yeah,
And I
no,
know
no.
mostly black and brown people. So
So here's okay. So here's the thing of what it is, and let me teach you.
yeah,
So let me
school me,
mansplain it to you.
please.
Uh, what it means is that the pool that you get hires is becomes bigger depending on the work structure that already exists, the pre-existing work structure. So, for example, take a profession or a business
Hmm.
that has a majority of a certain type of person, right? Let's
Okay,
call
yeah.
them white guys, right? Let's
Okay.
say the
Yeah.
workforce is 98% white dudes, right?
Okay.
So when they put this into practice years and years ago, the the standard was, hey, just look at different pools of people now because you guys are pulling
Okay.
from, you know. So let's just be more inclusive.
Okay.
What ends up happening though, okay, is that people didn't and still don't fucking even abide by that. There
Yeah.
is no quota to be had. That
Yeah. Okay.
legally you'll get in trouble for it if you don't. It's just a you can take them to court if they're actively being racist
Discriminating.
or prejudiced or whatever. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
what ends up happening. But that's all to the discretion of the employer, all that kind of stuff. There isn't this quota that you need to have two Asian guys, two black dudes,
Yeah.
one Mexican. It's not that's not how it works because at the end of the day, you still have to apply. You still have to interview. You still have
Yeah.
to have the skills. You still need to be up to par for whatever that job is. It's
Okay.
not just this for the sake of it, right? And that's what
Yeah.
the whole college thing also became too, where it's like, what quotas do they need to meet, all that kind of stuff. Do you need to have certain kinds, it becomes that muddy weird thing where it's a racist dog whistle to indicate that other people more deserving of you should have that spot because but that's not to say that the kid that went in is didn't get a crazy score on their SAT either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
there
Yeah.
it's automatically assumed that you took someone's spot. That means that you're undeserving, but you literally need to be
Yes.
qualified. Like you
Yes.
don't
Yes.
you don't bypass the qualification rounds of a
So
thing.
then, okay. So then, if I'm understanding you correctly, what
Yes.
DEI was meant to do was just to give people who may not be well represented in a field, so to speak, a chance at entering the field because you're getting considerations in companies that may not have already
There's
been,
so there was no
like you
law.
said,
There
there's
were
98 there's I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, there was no law in place to
No,
quantify the
it's a
distinction.
framework, right? It's a framework.
Right.
It's a
There were
way of approaching how you hire. It's supposed to be something where you're mindful about it, right? Like you can look around and say, yeah, we're 98% white. So when you're hiring, it's not saying that, oh, we need to hire a person of color. It's more so, can we look at this 85% white application pool of applicants and pay a little more attention to maybe this person who's not white, because you get pulled into the interview, right? Nobody knows if, like, my name, nobody would know that I'm a black dude. So I get pulled into this interview, and then what? I complete the interview. I'm qualified, right? And say I'm qualified, highly qualified even. But there's someone else who's white and also qualified. How then does that? How does DEI play into that? Like, is I think that's where my confusion comes from, because
mm,
if the white person is also qualified and I'm qualified, if they get the job, in my head I'm just like, all right, well, they were more qualified than me, but DEI is saying I should get the job, or at least I should be better. I don't know. I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand. I don't understand what DEI does for me in that situation. So if I get the job, was it a DEI thing? Was it because I'm qualified and he's qualified, but I'm also not white and the company's
mm,
98% white, so they're going to
mm.
bring me in to start the position instead of them? Because I don't know if I agree with that, honestly.
Okay, let's look at what it actually means. Let's get the definition down so we do know what we're talking about. So
Yeah, because I
let's
don't
write
know what DEI
what
is.
is D E D I. Mm, okay, so it's a framework, right? Like you called it.
Hmm.
It's used by organizations to foster a more inclusive, fair, diverse workplace community. So it's a representation of different identities, backgrounds, perspectives, equity, ensuring fair treatment, inclusion, creating an environment where all individuals feel valued and all that kind of stuff. But your answer is, how does it affect um, the actual process of getting hired, right?
Yes, like how
Okay.
is, like, what is, I know it's a framework and it's a way to be more inclusive. I understand that. And in theory, that sounds really good. But I
Mm,
think my confusion comes from, all right, but in practice, what does that look like? Because is someone who's also qualified not getting the job? And I think, like, for me, I think that's like, all right, if you're both qualified, it is what it is, right?
mm,
And the company goes, well, we have 98% straight white men, so this gay Latina woman, we're gonna
mm,
hire her because we have enough, you know. So in my head, that's that's fine, but I can also see where people would have a problem with that. But then at the same time, it's like, but that's like any other hiring. But even if take DEI out of it, right?
mm.
There are two people. People apply to jobs all the time. Only one person can get it, whatever factor that was, and it's not always going to be merit based, because there are times where people can have very closely matching qualifications. Right? They're both white. One of them is not going to get the job. So how would you call that person the? Or let's say they're two black people, or two brown people. One
Mm.
of them not going to get the job. Is DEI the process of bringing those two applicants in general, or does
Okay.
DEI apply to the
So
scenario in which one gets hired and one doesn't?
here's here's how this manifests. Okay,
Okay.
certain organizations, they actually have hiring goals where they're like, we need to have X amount of people and
Yes.
X
Okay.
amount of whatever. So there, that can
Hmm.
be a thing. The
I
next
thought it might.
thing, it's like affirmative action, which is a controversial thing, obviously, for some people. But they
Yes.
make they make an effort to bring in underrepresented people because they need to correct
Yes.
some imbalance, right? And
Yes.
that
And
really
see,
depends.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I agree more with affirmative action because it tells you what it is right up front, right? Like
Mhm.
I appreciate affirmative action because affirmative action can work for more than just black people, brown people. It just works for if you're underrepresented in this industry, we are making it a goal to bring you into the industry. And it's straight up, that's what it is. We're not going to dance around it. We're not going to, we're not going to pretend. We're not going to sugarcoat. It's affirmative
Mhm.
action, but it's put in place to help disenfranchised people or people who are underrepresented to move into fields that they want to move into. DEI, I feel like doesn't have that same kind of this is what it is, this is how it works,
Here's
be
the
it on
thing.
board or
Here's
you're
the
not.
thing. Here's the thing. DEI is set up in a place that where you have some legal protection um, over companies that actively are discriminatory.
Okay.
I think that's what it really does at the end of the day. It gives you legal protection in a certain way where if you are an applicant and let's say X amount of people apply to some job and they never fucking hire like
Yeah.
anyone else but
This
a
certain
certain type of
demographic.
person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Problematic, right? Because that's not
Yes.
how it should work, right? Okay, I
Agree.
think that's
Agree.
what it does. But this is what I'm reading here. Ultimately,
Hmm.
it still depends on the employer and the industry and the specific hiring methods that they have. So even with all this in place, you
Hmm.
still have the obstacles and barriers that you need to climb to still
Hmm.
get those things anyway. And I think it's
Okay.
represented at least in the two of us where just because you and I are black and brown doesn't mean that we fucking get a heads up anywhere.
Yeah. No.
It's
I
all
haven't
this
gotten,
really
yeah.
yeah, all this really means is that if we're at a place and we felt like we got discriminated against because XYZ and we have probable cause, then we have a framework to take them to court legally. But
Okay.
that's very muddy and that doesn't ever happen though. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
those instances are really really rare and the things that end up climbing are those weird things that you hear when they go to the Supreme Court because of some affirmative action bullshit thing and it never flies
And never,
because it's that. It's that whole thing.
yeah.
And
And
usually
that's what I was just
those
going to
things are
ask
brought
because,
on by white people. Those things that go up to the Supreme Court are always some white dude that got mad
yeah,
that
mad because an
he
Asian
didn't get a
person got into
job somewhere.
Harvard. I've heard, I've seen those a
That's
few
it.
years ago where people were
That's all
upset
it
that
is.
white people were,
That's all it is.
but okay, so how
So
does
like
that
for
differ
example
then
like
from
a
affirmative action, right? Because if affirmative action, so I guess DEI then
affirmative action from what I understand is a
is more of a quota,
no, affirmative action is more of a like yeah, I guess more of a quota, like an actual
and
quota. Like
and so
yeah.
DEI is trying to
But
like
that's all
build upon
that's
that and not be like a whole number. Oh, you're just a number, and that's why we hired you.
right.
DEI is trying to be more like
Inclusive to everything.
merit based, but
Yeah.
weighing that merit against other factors like demographic, um, you know, sexuality, even though that's illegal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's why it's muddy for me. I
It's
just
mighty.
I want to be all
The
because
thing,
I'm
okay,
liberal, so I want to be all
here's the
yeah, this is
thing.
great, but at the same time, like the
Here's the
nuances of it
thing.
all
Here's the thing. When if this gets
can be
removed,
confusing.
right, out of the legal
Hmm.
framework,
Yeah,
what ends up happening, or I guess the fear is that things are gonna go back to a place where legally your any company or organization doesn't have to abide by being fair.
yeah, okay,
That's what ends up happening. It's like,
yeah,
all right, well, fuck it. I don't need to. We don't need to like abide by any framework legally. So we're only gonna hire fucking straight white dudes, or we're gonna only hire X amount of whatever. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it,
yeah.
you know. But the framework that this country lives under is usually the white persuasion. So that's
There's a
really the
hierarchy, yeah, for sure.
underlying. Really the underlying cause of it all. But like I said,
Here's
though, in the frameworks of a lot of companies and stuff like that, it's all still dependent on what the hiring people want. Really, at the end of the day, it
yeah.
still comes down to
That's
that.
my point. That's what I was trying to get at earlier, where I was like, any job, even without DEI, any job that you get is going to come down to someone making a decision about you and another versus another candidate, right? It's always
Yeah.
going to be that,
And it's
and
what
it's
they
not
want
always
and whatever they
what
want.
I want to bring into my company exactly. And sometimes,
Yes.
like
So,
especially the field that we work in, right? You've heard
right.
before, yeah. It was between you and another guy, and to be honest, the other guy just didn't feel like he would fit here. right? He just
Why?
didn't
What
fit
does that mean?
exactly. And I've heard that
Mhm.
before. I know you've heard that before.
Yeah,
So, and
100%.
that wasn't a DEI thing, right? That's just
Mhm.
a I didn't think they would fit the culture here, and that's fine. And my thing is like, okay, so when does that become DEI? When it's between a white straight man and then someone who's not a white straight man? Is that when it becomes DEI? Is that when people get upset about it? Like that's what I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand where that becomes a
Yeah, it
problem.
become look, the anger of this becomes from white people.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It's white people. I've every time that one of these things comes up, it's that, or even, y- y- yeah. And I think one of the last things that, if I recall, was an Asian girl. I think
Hmm.
was mad about the Harvard process because she didn't get in or something like. So it was something like that, where even that stuff can get flipped into, you feeling like you're deserving of XYZ. Let me
Yeah.
look that up. Actually, let me look that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's all dependent. I feel like, um, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the way that this girl, she ended up changing like some kind of law, and then it
Hmm.
ended up like backfiring. Um,
Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. The DEI initiative, it feels like affirmative action 2.0, right? Just a building off of it so that it's no longer just, hey, a number quota, right? You hire five and you're done. And then you don't have to hire anybody else that in that demographic. You can just keep hiring what you're used to and what you want. DEI puts in a framework where it goes, no, these people aren't just numbers. They're real people with lives. And, so do better at hiring outside of your normal demographic because there are other people out there deserving with their merit based, deserving of an opportunity to work here as well. Let's not let some of these other things be factors that keep them out of the field, but instead allow them to enter the field. That's what
mhm.
DEI sounds like to me. And it doesn't sound like a bad thing. It doesn't. It until it starts working against you. And I think when it starts working against you, I can see how some people would get up in arms about that, right? Like I can see how that becomes a problem. Like think about the when Elon said about the H-1B visas that he was talking about and how quickly white people got super mad about that, right? It's like, bro, you farmer in Nebraska was never going to get one of the jobs Elon is talking about, but you're still up in arms about it because it goes against you directly, right? He's saying, oh, we got to look at other countries and bring Asian people in here. Let's get them doing these jobs that Americans are too dumb to do, right? And then they start saying, well, we don't want no DEI. We don't want no, we want them all deported. Like I seen that as a stance from people, which was wild to me. It was like, oh no, we don't want any immigrants. Stop trying to bring them in here. And it's like, yeah, well, because you feel threatened. And that's why it's bad. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day,
Yeah. So this was, um, so okay. So this is what it was. So it was like a group of anonymous Asian, uh, uh, American students, um, especially this one girl. She spoke out against how she felt about the Harvard's admission process. It was unfair. Um, but her experience was cited. She wasn't the lead plaintiff, but her experience was cited in the discussions. Then there was another girl who, this is the one I really remember, Abigail Fisher. She was this white girl from the University of Texas, and in 2016 she took she made a big deal about affirmative action because she felt like she had a spot taken, and that
mhm,
was like that thing, right? So,
yes.
the case, this is a case against affirmative action. So the student was it was just a conservative movement, and they meant to challenge the affirmative action and race-based admissions policies in schools. They
Hmm.
argued that Harvard and the University of North Carolina unfairly discriminated against Asian American applicants by holding them to a higher academic standards compared to other racial groups.
Mm,
They claim that Harvard used a subjective personality rating system that consistently scored Asian applicants lower, effectively limiting their chances. The case alleged that affirmative action policies intended to increase diversity ended up penalizing highly qualified Asian American students in favor of Black and Hispanic applicants with lower test scores.
I remember
Um,
that. Yeah.
okay, so the ruling was that they, um, hang on. So yeah, and so the ruling was they struck down affirmative action in school. So that's
Hmm.
doesn't it's not a thing anymore.
Hmm.
Um, the impact, right? So many universities have revamped their admission policies, focusing on factors like socioeconomic, personal essays, first generation status instead of race. The ruling has sparked debate, while supporters argue it promotes true meritocracy, while opponents claim it disproportionately harms Black and Latino students who benefit from affirmative action. So, so arguing this thing, which they felt was unfair to Asian students, they
Hmm.
completely abolished everything. So now Asian students don't even get a fair shake anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like they just like scorch earth kind of situation, and so it
Yeah.
becomes,
Okay.
you know.
But okay, so that was affirmative action, which is kind of like what we were saying earlier, which is affirmative
Mm-hmm.
action is just all right. We're gonna squeak you through, even though you may not be as qualified as some of the other applicants, but because we don't have a well enough represented demographic of you and your kind, we're gonna let you
Mm-hmm.
in, even though your test scores are lower than this Asian or this white person or whatever, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and that I can agree with that, and I think that's where DEI maybe steps in to fill the void, because I feel like DEI is definitely, like you said, you still have to jump through the hoops for DEI hire. Like, even if if a company is DEI conscious, right? And they're bringing in people, or school is DEI conscious and they're bringing in students, it's still merit based. We're still looking at your test scores. We're still looking at, your past work. We're still looking at your portfolio. We're still looking at all of these different things. We're just now going to take into account your upbringing, your demographic, these different factors that may have not been taken into consideration before. And I think so basically saying that, all right, so that we are not going to let Black and Latinos into Harvard anymore if their test scores are lower. However, our job now is to find Black and Latino kids whose test scores rival that of white students, and then bring those Black and Latino kids in. That's where I feel like DEI has taken a step in the forward from affirmative action. If what
Yeah.
I'm understanding through our conversation is correct.
Well, so the thing is that, like, I think in a hypothetical best place that would be ideal, but I think that the cynicism is that's probably not going to happen.
I, I
You know what
mean,
I mean?
that's
That's I
obviously
think
what the cynicism is. Yeah,
I
the
think
cynicism
so.
is that when like you were saying, when it happens now under DEI, the thought process of the people screaming about how DI is unfair is they're obviously not thinking, well, yeah, that black fella and that white fella clearly were evenly matched and they just took the black guy. They're thinking there's no way that black dude's smarter than that white guy. That's what they're thinking.
That's what it
Yeah,
is. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what it is.
yeah.
So now, but see, now that all is taken away. So now there is no, like, the only way that we're gonna see um
Hmm.
the repercussions of this is in like couple, like, give it like the next graduating cycles, so the next 4 to 5 years, maybe
All right.
even
Well, that
10.
may be for school, but not for the plane crash, because here's what happened when Trump listened to all his DEI screechers and immediately
Right,
started
right,
stripping stuff away. So
right,
on
right.
January 20th, that was inauguration day.
Mm-hmm.
The FAA director,
Mm-hmm.
um, he stepped down.
Mm-hmm.
Right, he stepped down because Elon Musk was screeching at him to step down. So he stepped down before the inauguration because he knew he was going to get fired anyway.
Yeah.
That was the 20th. On the 21st, um, there was the federal freeze, which also impacted air traffic controlling freeze. And so that freeze there, when the air traffic controller stuff came out, there were two congressmen. I believe one was, see, now I want to say Seth Cohen, but I don't think his name is Seth Cohen. But the point is, there were two
Yeah.
congressmen who immediately came out and said, "Hey, you can't put a hiring freeze over the FAA and the air traffic controllers." Specifically, that's what they were saying. They were talking about air traffic control. They were like, "This
Hmm.
is already understaffed. We're already trying to bring people in, highly qualified people, because it takes a long time to become an air traffic controller. So
That's
we're
what I
all,
was
yeah,
read. Yeah.
yeah, we're already." So this was back on the 21st that they were talking about this. Like, it's not just unconstitutional, it's very dangerous for you to put this hiring freeze in place and not exempt these specific sections of the federal government employees, talking about air traffic controllers. And then on the 22nd, Trump's response to that was to disband the Aviation Safety Advisory Committee.
Hmm.
You know, the guys that oversee it all, the guys that make sure things are safe and make sure.
Right.
So that happened. On the 28th, the letters started going out to federal employees to basically resign. And it
Well, I
wasn't.
saw. So, mind you,
Hmm.
um, we have a friend in our group whose a brother of his works in a specific government agency,
Hmm.
um, and he shared with us the email that he got,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's like the whole resign by the 6th, get paid until whatever, and we're like, that is so suspect. Like, they're gonna pay you for not working for, like, it's just that, you know what I mean. There's some fuckery afoot. So yeah, I saw that. So I saw that
Yeah.
firsthand.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's an effort to shrink the government, right? Because
Hmm.
Republicans are notoriously, conservatives are notoriously small government people, right? So that's
Hmm.
an effort to shrink the government and
Hmm.
allow people, quote unquote, to take it into their own hands, to step away from
Hmm.
their jobs, right?
Hmm.
Don't do that, by the way. If you don't do that, don't leave your job. Don't take that quote unquote buyout. It's
Yeah,
basically
don't. Yeah,
it's just a shitty severance package. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, we will allow you to continue to work from home for the next 6 months, but we'll pay you for 3 months after you. It's like, nah, that's not a buyout, bro. That's a trash severance.
no,
We're not doing that. And
yeah.
then finally, on the 29th, the first mid-air crash in America in 16 years. In 16 years. You think that's a coincidence?
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
right.
But he's out
Cause
here blaming DEI and Obama and
here's
Biden
the
because he
thing,
can never take accountability.
right? Well,
But
here's
here
the
we have
thing.
this list of things that he did that dismantled the safety
Look,
of our airspace.
you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to even just like understand the basics of people's reactions to things to give you a
Hmm.
real indication of what the issue is, because the first thing he did was go on the offensive to blame everyone else
Immediately.
but
Immediately.
himself.
Yep.
So for me, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, so like you're gonna blame fucking Obama, bro? Like, get the how many times you're gonna beat that horse, dude? That shit is nuts, dude. The
It's a
second
GOP
that
playbook,
comes out of
man.
your mouth, it's like, okay, bro,
All
like
credibility
you must
lost.
think that we're like dumb as fuck to think that. So you're not taking any responsibility for anything, and you don't. It's not even taking responsibility. It's even just having the decorum to say we're gonna look into this stuff. This shit is
Simple as that.
crazy, blah blah
Yeah.
blah, whatever. That's, you know what I mean, at its minimum. But like the first thing is to like put all blame everyone everywhere else instead of internalize, because
Yeah.
obviously it is your fucking fault,
Yeah.
and like
And we're not stupid.
you're loudly claiming it. So like fuck the
And was
fuck off.
Yeah, and it's it's crazy because people died. Like 60 people died, plus the 3 people that were on the Black Hawk helicopter. And instead of being a president and leading in that moment, like you said, hey, this is an American tragedy, and we're gonna look into it, and we're trying to, my heart goes out, you know, to the
Hmm.
families of the people affected. Instead of doing that, he goes on the offensive and starts talking about, oh well, this is Obama's fault, and this is, Biden's fault, and this is the fault of people who were hired under DEI, underqualified, insane people, straight up mentally insane people did this. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like, just be a president, bro. And it's crazy because the first time you were president, people were like, it's his first term. He don't really know what he's doing. So you've been here before. You've done this before. You've learned nothing. Have you
No,
learned nothing about how to govern? It's
No,
really all out. Like, yeah,
because
it's crazy.
that's not what he was. That's not what he's meant. He's not. That's not his position. His position is to make money. And
Yeah.
let me play an example of what that means. Okay, so for
Right.
people who don't understand how crypto works or even the stock market works, very it's a very big concept that I feel people get scared of because it just
Mhm.
feels so monumentous. It's like this whole thing of like the numbers and the things and what does this options mean? It's all very it can be and it's meant to be and it's meant to be pretty confusing so
Mhm.
people don't take advantage of it. I feel so a lot of people's way in is all these new crypto apps that are very easy to sign in to
Yeah.
buy because
Yeah.
all you really, for the average person, you know, if I explain to how to short a stock and how to short a coin or whatever, and how to pull a rug, that is a pump and dump. All these terms
Mhm.
are go by people's heads. They don't know what the fuck that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what
Yeah.
that is because I've, researched it, understood it. I
Yeah.
played the game a little bit,
Yeah.
and so I understand kind of the basics of all this kind of stuff. And even then, I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm some kind of
No,
proficient,
I would never give anybody
investor or some
financial
shit.
advice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would
right,
never give anybody
exactly.
investing advice. But I'd make my own investments, and yeah, I will invest different things, and absolutely. But I will never tell somebody, hey,
Yeah.
buy this. Yeah, no.
So people are getting screwed over because people don't understand how it works. So you got your Haktua coin, you got your Doge coin, you have
Yep.
your
Yep.
Trump coin. Okay. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna play a video of kind of explaining kind of how that works so you don't fall into the trap of it because I think that that shit is really important of like where you put your money and especially people who fucking put a lot of money and lose everything and don't understand
Yeah.
what happened, thinking
Yeah.
that they were going to be on the ground floor of some new thing. So anyway, enough of me talking. I'm going to let Max Fisher explain it. He's a co-host from Offline with John Favreau.
One morning and said there are a billion Trump coins, which of course have no actual inherent value. He sells those Trump coins off for a couple of dollars each, not very much. Those coins are so cheap, they get snapped up very quickly. There's more demand for the coins than there is supply, which is by design. So they get bid up from, $5 a coin to $7 a coin. And this gets noticed by a much larger pool of people, which is where the real money is, which is what actually drives these schemes. These are crypto speculators, but they're not what you might picture. It's a lot of compulsive gamblers and it's a lot of people who have debt. So they put up their life savings. And the Silicon Valley playbook at this point is to bump up the price of that coin even more by hyping it through their network of like podcasts and influencers. Once the price gets high enough, it's time for the rug pull. The hope is that it's like maybe I'll be the one who sells right before the rug pull. Trump has held on to 80% of these coins. He's got literally hundreds of millions of these coins. Trump sells all of those coins off. So if the market price when he decides to do this is $100 a coin, the first few he sells off for 100, then he runs out of people who are willing to buy at that price. So he starts selling it at $90 a coin, then at $80 a coin. Once he has sold all of his off, the price is at zero. And what that means is that if you are one of those speculators, those day traders, someone who put up your life savings because you've got medical debt and you're desperate to try to pay it off, that value is now wiped out to zero.
So does that pretty clear? I hope for people.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I mean, well,
So
obviously, I don't. You weren't.
so what obviously what
I was gonna say, obviously, that wasn't meant for me, like me as an investor, because I know
No,
I
no,
know
no,
what a
no,
rug
no.
pull is and all that
No,
stuff.
no, no.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about people in general who might not understand how these coin things work and this pump and dump schemes and like how you can get tricked into buying and putting money into certain things because people like the fervor is pretty real.
It is. It
All of a
is. Yeah.
sudden, a friend of yours is talking about some bullshit coin, and then you put it money into it, and then it does fucking terrible, and you wonder like, damn, I just lost. And it doesn't have to be your life savings, but maybe you
No,
put a
a
couple
little more than
bills,
you could afford to
yeah, a
lose. That's
couple
all it
bills
is. Yeah.
that you couldn't, that you thought you were gonna like cash back on and stuff. So
Yeah. Well, That's why,
just be
honestly,
aware.
before you even get into that kind of like what's going to happen, how this is where the first thing you should know about investing is, and this isn't, again, I'll never give anybody, hey, this is what you buy, but one thing you should know is that never invest anything that you're not willing to lose, right? If you're putting this money in, know that it could go to zero, and just, you have to be okay with that. And then
Yeah.
once you're able to do that, then go on Wall Street Bets and inverse everything that they say. Don't do it. Don't, what if they say buy this, fucking short it. If they say short this, buy it. That's my
Yeah.
strategy. Because
Yeah.
here's the thing, here's what
100%.
happens. A lot of, no, seriously, a lot of rug pulls happen on Reddit. You go on Reddit, you go on Wall Street Bets, you hear people talking about, oh, I just put I just YOLO 300,000 into this coin or into this stock, right? That gets people, oh man, if he could put 300,000 in there, he must think it's going to be a sure thing. So let me go ahead and put my $300 in there. It's all I can afford. It's grocery money for next week, but yeah, it's fine. I'll be fine because he's putting 300,000 in there. The rug pull comes at that when the reason why they're telling you that they put 300,000 their YOLO play, that YOLO play was made 3 weeks ago. They're just sharing it with you now because they need someone to sell that shit to. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that when you go, hey, he put in 300,000, I could put in my grocery money for next week. I will be fine. My family will be fine. It's not like we're living paycheck to paycheck, even though you're living paycheck to paycheck. I'll put my $300 in, follow this guy. And then that guy, when you buy $300 worth of it, you literally bought that 300 from him because he's trying to offload his. He's made his money already. He's showing you it was 300,000 when he put in. Now he's made his money on it because you're willing to buy it from him. The price goes up. He sells you his fucking worthless shares. He's out the game, turn that 300,000 into 1.2 million, and now you're left with a stock that crashes as soon as he's out. As soon as him and the people that are in it with him, as soon as those people, the whales, as soon as they're out, it crashes back down to 50 cents a share when it was $6 a share what you bought it at. And now you
Right.
got now your $300 is 25 cents. You're like, well, guess my family's not eating next week.
Right.
It happens. It
Yeah,
happens on
it
Reddit a
happens.
lot. A
No,
lot.
it
I
happens.
see it happen all the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of
There's a
sad
pattern.
actually.
It's a
It's a
pattern.
pattern.
It's a
Yeah, there
pattern.
is definitely a pattern. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, enough of investment talk. Enough of money talk. Enough of DEI.
Yeah.
DEI. You know that. Listen,
Yeah.
enough.
Enough of
Okay, enough.
DIYs and all that
Yeah,
BS.
enough of these acronyms. Okay, I want to play for you something that brought a lot of joy to my heart, and I hope it brings joy to your heart too. Is he invited to the cookout? 'Cause
I love a white person doing Jamaican rap. I love it. I absolutely. And look around. Look at all the black people in the restaurant. They also love it too. Not a single black person in there is bothered by this. Look, they filming it. They filming it back there. And look, man. For all
this
for
what
all
this is what diversity should be.
diversity, equity, and inclusion. That guy's getting it. He's feeling that. He's feeling love. That's all it is. That's all. You talk to me about DEI. I just say, hey, that just lets me know I'm welcome here. He's clearly being welcome there. You saw that one black guy in the very beginning. He look, like that's
Yeah, we're in the yeah, this dude right here. No, or this lady
right here in the
yeah.
hat. Yeah, this guy right
Oh,
here
yeah.
in the beanie. In the beanie. He's like, what? All right, and then he's cool with it. He's cool with it. He's like, oh, that's fucking cool then. That's kind of dope. Wasn't expecting that, but it's dope. I fucks with it, and that's the thing.
What a happy surprise he had, huh?
Yeah, he was. That's the thing.
Oh,
Like,
that's
look,
so
man.
funny. That makes me laugh.
It's
so
never us trying to keep white people out of our spaces. It's always them trying to keep us out of theirs. That's all. You know what I'm saying? Like, not a single person is screaming at this dude because he don't belong there. But let me take my black ass to a white neighborhood and try to barbecue in a park, and I got people calling the police on me, dog. You know what I'm saying? They let this motherfucker walk in here and straight up do fucking welcome to Jamrock. And he's having the time of his life. Look at him. He's loving it. He's absolutely,
Yeah.
that fool is lunching right now. They having dinner, but he lunching. He's loving it, dog. No discrimination, nothing.
Yeah.
And then look. The novelty wears off, and then people just go back to eating their food. They put their phones away.
Yeah.
They don't. It goes from wow, that was interesting to all right. Well, I'm hungry, so I'm gonna go back to my food. I'm gonna go back to minding my own business. Right? I got my little 30-second clip. Now I'm gonna go back to minding my own goddamn business, and I will share this with the kinfolk when I leave here. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong with that,
like,
man.
look. I think if there's any indication how most minorities feel about stuff is this. No, there's no Hispanic people that give a shit about Taco Tuesday. You know what I mean? Ain't no like it's not a thing, man. It really
Huh.
isn't a thing.
Not thinking
But
about that.
but it's reversed for it. We don't get the courtesy. We don't
We
get
don't
the
get that
grace.
courtesy at
We don't get that
all.
grace. We don't get that
At
grace.
all,
God
brother.
forbid
At all.
God forbid I walk around in some Birkenstocks. You know what I mean? Like I'm the problem
Yeah.
all of a sudden.
You're
You know what I mean?
the bad guy. All of a sudden, people start wondering, about your upbringing and why are you trying to pretend to be white and why, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is
Mhm.
ridiculous, dog. Nah. Me and
Ridiculous.
Jarvis actually share videos whenever we find a white person singing in patois or whatever,
Uh-huh.
Jamaican, however you want to call it. We share videos. That's like part of the fun. That's fun to us, And for anybody who doesn't know Jarvis, he's another black dude. That's one of the things we do in our free time. That's something we
So
find
just
entertaining,
black fun,
amusing.
just clean
Yeah,
old black fun.
just makes us happy is all I'm saying. Like, right? Like, well, I'm not sending this to him like, oh, how dare this person encroach on our culture. No, it's like, oh, look at this dude enjoying himself and in our culture. That's kind of cool, right? That's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
And he's good. Wow. This guy's good. I wonder if he's actually from Jamaica, right? It's the same thing with Chet Hanks. I was trying to give Chet Hanks the benefit of the doubt. Y'all jumped down my throat for that one. I was because he's not Jamaican. But I was trying to give him. I was like, yeah, man, he's enjoying the culture. Let the man enjoy the culture. I ain't mad at the man. I'm not mad at the man for enjoying the culture, dog. Like, I'll
Chet
never be mad at
fucking
anybody.
Hanks. Friend of the
For
pod,
enjoying the
Chet Hanks. Fuck Chet. Look, we're we're running low on time.
yeah.
Okay, but I think we're gonna extend a little bit because I think this is important. This is something that's ongoing,
Mm.
and we're talking about our cultural spaces. I think this ties in beautifully. Okay, we're talking
Mhm.
about our cultural spaces, our heritage, our foods, even our political leanings. Okay,
Mhm.
something that happened over these last couple of years was that Latinos for Trump became a thing. Okay,
Yeah.
just like other sects became a thing too. There was blacks
Yeah.
for Trump, there was
Yeah.
gays for
Gays
Trump, all
for
this kind of
Trump.
stuff.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
So this was part of that kind of thing where you're it feels like a backstabbing Benedict Arnold situation where you're just like, what are you people smoking? Like, what is up
Mm.
with what
Yeah.
led you to this
Down
crisis
that path. Yeah.
conscious and this
Yeah.
crisis of culture? I like to call it the double C's.
Ooh, this crisis of culture. I like that. Hey.
That's right. So I have, I have my thoughts on all that stuff, but what's been happening is that the old saying, the leopards didn't know that leopards would eat my face,
Mhm.
and that is what's
Mhm.
happening to Latinos for Trump because so many of these Latinos really thought that this dude's messaging and the party's messaging was totally on their side, trying to whitewash their their own misgivings or whatever whatever comes with
Yeah.
that that psychological thing of like wanting
Yeah.
to be included and all that kind of stuff and so
You want a little diversity, equity, and inclusion, maybe? Maybe is that
hmm
what it is? Hmm?
that's what that
Oh,
must be what
okay.
it is.
Okay.
And well, they bit off a little more off the taco than they can chew, okay? Because what ended up
You
happening
are on a roll today.
what ended up happening is that people who were these super MAGA guys are getting their family deported. Shocker, 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 right? Are we shocked? We aren't. but they sure as hell are. And so there's been a couple of videos that have been making the round of like people crying and like freaking out because of this like, you know, this like thing that for whatever reason thought they were going to be exempt from fucking happening to them. So I'm going to read this off the top. This is a Florida man who voted for Trump wants to work something out with Donald Trump after ICE snatched up his wife and deported her back to Venezuela. And so let me play the video, okay? Now, mind you, I haven't seen this, so I'll definitely be reacting to this shit in real time because I have no clue.
Excuse my language. And then they took my wife.
This man who wished not to be identified says his wife is from Venezuela and has lived in the United States for a few years. She was one of 3 people taken from this home. I'm told the 2 others were men who worked in construction. You see them here. This video, only a minute and 52 seconds long, we do not see his wife being removed from the home. But this is a picture of her that he keeps in his wallet. Her name is Vianis Ramirez, and he says she was in the process of becoming a United States citizen.
She already had a court date. She was good. Everything's good. He just came in and snatched her.
These are pictures from the Department of Homeland
Pendejo, that's what you fucking thought. That's what you thought, dog.
and Security, other undocumented.
Huh? What'd you say?
I don't want to be mean. Right? I don't want to be mean. I think that this is sad what's happening to this dude.
Yeah.
But this guy's, it makes sense that he's a Trump supporter, a Latino for Trump. He's an idiot. He's stupid. And I'm not saying that as in, oh, he's stupid because he was voting for Trump or whatever. I'm saying he's stupid because he's on national television with his face not blanked out, using his real voice, and then giving out his last name. But in the first 2 seconds of the clip, it was like, he doesn't want to be identified. What? What? That's a lot of information for someone who doesn't want to be identified, dog. You're dumb. So you're an idiot, is what you're telling me. Yeah. All right, continue.
Men and women in Broward County.
It's despicable what they're doing right now. It's very embarrassing.
President Donald Trump arrived at his Trump National Golf Resort in Doral Saturday, set to host GOP leaders for a conference. This man hopes this message makes it to him.
I get a chance to talk to you, man. Yo, please, man, let's work something out. So you, man, let me keep my wife here in the United States, man. She deserves to be here, man.
Yeah.
ICE reports nearly 1,000 raids in the country on Sunday alone, which is up from just under 300 on Saturday. Here at the detention center in Miramar, things have been quiet for several hours, but we will continue to monitor this situation and bring you the developing news on.
Yeah. So, you know, he did hear that, buddy. He definitely is going to hear you. He's going to make it all right. And here's the thing. You know what's funny? That let's say by happenstance, Trump does like hear this dude out and then brings her back.
Yeah.
It'll just add to the dumbasses that think that
he's got our backs. He's got our backs. Right. Yeah, we can. Yeah. No. Yeah. And also, like, what's crazy is that he says she was in a process of getting her citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
So they can just snatch you up now while you're legally you're going through the legal process, and they're like, nah, it's taking too long, get out. Like, how does that work? I don't understand. And I'm just assuming that they're like, we don't care. We're taking
100%. It's 100% they don't care, because what's going to end up happening is that court date's going to get missed.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever legalities that like you have to like abide by.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't show up, and if you don't do your thing or whatever is required of you, then you just get pushed, and it gets it just gets waved off, because they're not going to have time to find you, figure out what happened to you. Like, you know what I mean? The court doesn't work that way. They don't give a shit if you got to show up. When they tell you got to be at a place at 2 p.m. on a Friday and you're not there, you got to face the consequences of missing your court date. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
And so that's part of it, you know?
Yeah.
So
like, I think,
can they take all this stuff to court? The litigation of all this stuff is going to be stupid. Like, that's what's
especially if she's already in Venezuela. You know what I mean? Like, if she's already gone. But that's what I'm saying. Like, is it one of the situations where she was going through the process of becoming a United States citizen, but it's like, hey, we don't have you in our system as a U.S. citizen yet, right? So we're going to pick you up. We're gonna bring you to the detention center, and we're gonna hold you until we can figure out where you are, if you're actually going through the process, where you are, and if you are going through the process, we'll let you go. Or is it a situation where they're just picking you up and they're just like, hey, we don't have you in the system. You're not a United States
I mean, look,
citizen, so we're sending you back. We don't want you here. Period. It's over. We're gonna
it's
renege on our promise. Go home. Is it like
it's
that?
look, it's a very common story in the Latin community,
Mhm.
especially being a son of immigrants and a lot of friends that are as well. And
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
the story's always the same. It's like you got to go through these hoops, all these things, and sometimes you're not lucky. That's what it
Yeah,
comes down to sometimes. Sometimes you're just not lucky, and that you get caught because you look some kind of way to some officer, some immigration person, agent or whatever, and then you just get sent back. Like, and
yeah,
even if there are legal stuff, you can obviously continue that process, but it becomes harder because you're not in the country anymore. Like, so
yeah,
whatever, let's say, whatever money you were making to pay the legal fees and all that shit, now you're out of the picture.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like kind of hard because now you have to depend on family or whoever the case may be to kind of continue those things, and that shit's expensive, and maybe they don't have the resources to do
yeah.
that, so
That's
you just get
crazy.
fucked. So you
Yeah,
can be here
very
for
true.
X amount of years, paying all these legal fees, doing all this stuff, and then from one day to the next you get sent, and then you could have been 90% done with all the things that you needed
Yeah,
to do, and that's
yeah.
it.
And they don't care
And
because
they don't
they
care.
clearly they picked that woman up and was like, nah, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It happens.
mm,
So my
it's
yeah,
scary,
so
man.
yeah, so like yeah, my parents had to go through a bunch of stuff too, like um and it took them until I was 17 years old for them to get
Wow,
their papers.
wow. And so,
So
would you be so? I don't even know if I want to say this because I don't want you getting targeted, but
it's fine,
like,
fuck
so
them.
you would be a birthright citizen, you would be a recipient of birthright citizenship, or did
Well,
you go out and do your own?
the legality, I'm sure there's different legality to it because my parents came here as political refugees. So
Yes.
their staying in the country was something completely different.
Hmm.
So they were given the like the benefit of like they're here because of communism or whatever the fuck, and so they didn't get like special treatment, but they didn't get kicked out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, because they were here like as asylum, kind of like whatever.
Yeah, they received an asylum.
Because they weren't Cuban, so like Cuban people actually had specific programs for Cuban refugees that
Yeah.
other Latin people didn't. Like,
They got real. They still get special treatment, don't they?
yeah. So I
Because
don't
I
know
know
about
there was
still,
the
but
whole.
but the whole thing now is that the Cuban community has been here for such a long time and it's been so old that there's an infrastructure that exists for people that it makes their transition easier, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
legal things. There's the help that's there, like the resources and stuff. So for me, I think there's some legal precedent to say like, well, my parents weren't here. Sure, they were here like illegally in terms of their status at the time, but
Yeah, yeah,
they were given a social security card like right when, so there were things that you're given to become I guess a member. It's just that the fucking process is long. The
yeah. But
process takes
they
fucking
did give
forever.
them like kind of a leg up, or a step in the right, so that they had a social security card, so they can come here, they could start working, and then they could start earning money, and then they could start the process of legally becoming citizens. So it wasn't like they came here and then it was like, all right, well, you're kind of screwed because you don't have a social security number, you don't have the right paperwork,
Right, yeah,
so
right.
it was
Yeah, so they
okay,
definitely
okay,
got
okay.
so they definitely were in a better position than most people that don't have any of those things. Like you're just a
Yeah,
ghost. You're just like
yeah,
living off of like the goodwill of whatever the fuck, you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's
The
difficult.
goodwill and the exploitative nature of people who will
Right.
pay you under the
Right.
table pennies to do the
What's
hard
crazy?
jobs.
Yeah. So what's crazy too is that like even though my parents were here, like as like asylum and political refugees in the sense, they still weren't legal. like citizens. So you don't get legal citizen benefits. So you don't get compensation. You don't get healthcare. You don't get these things that are given
Oh
to you as a
wow,
citizen.
really?
Mm.
So
So like
even if they got a job, even if they went out and got a job, they wouldn't be offered like health care or anything like that?
I
Is
don't
what
know.
you're saying?
I don't know how that worked, but no, I don't think so. And then
Wow.
I know. The one of the things that I remember as a kid being very like how unfair that felt was that my dad and my mom like they pay taxes every year. They have to do a tax return like
Yeah,
every year,
that's
right?
wild.
But they didn't get any money back. So you
Okay,
have to
hang
do
on.
your tax. You
So
have to
you
do your taxes, but you
wow,
can't benefit from your taxes. You know,
from your
like it's like
taxes,
right. So that's what a lot of immigrants go through. Like, and
which
mind
is
you, my parents were in a
crazy.
different position. So like, it's crazy that they had to go through that. But now imagine someone who is working, right? So maybe sure the money's under the table, but they're still
Mm.
paying taxes on the food that they buy. You know,
Yeah,
whatever the case may be, they're not like
yeah.
tax free. They're still
No, they're not.
paying taxes, right?
Taxes, they're just not paying directly into the tax system.
And they're
Yeah.
not getting anything out of it. You can't get anything out of it. It's not this
No.
idea that people
Wow.
think that like you know like the burden of an immigrant, that kind of mentality where they're
Yeah.
sucking all our that's it's
It's
like an
so false. Yes.
impossibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
impossibility. It's not a even it's unfathomable because you don't exist. So you
Yeah.
can't get
You
any
can't.
you're not going to go to the fucking unemployment line or whatever and be like, "Hey, I'm so and so. I need some health care, please. I need like what, you know, I need some food." You don't
My
get
kid is
shit.
sick or whatever.
You don't
Yeah.
get shit. You don't get a
Wow.
fucking thing because you can't. And
Yeah.
because if you try to, you'll get in trouble and you'll get deported,
You'll get
which
sent
is
back.
what you don't want to do. So this
Yeah.
whole idea of like immigrants, you know, taking our jobs, taking our health, our social security, like that shit is it's not a thing. It's
That's
not a thing.
crazy. So what you're saying is that illegal immigrants actually do more to help our economic
100%.
than they do to like detract from our
Yes,
economics.
because
That's kind of crazy,
you
bro.
have a group of people in the
Who
you know in the
earn money
millions
and
in the
can
millions.
spend it,
Yeah.
but can't get the government subsidies for living that the rest of
No.
us get.
So
That's
you're
insane.
getting
I
money
never
from a
thought of it
whole
that way.
group.
Wow.
Yeah. You're getting money from a whole group of people that can't take it out.
Yeah, that cannot pull it out, right? Oh wow, that's crazy. And then so I mean, the way it sounds
Hmm.
is people should be more for immigration. You know, bring them in, let them, you know.
Look, the morality of all that shit is very murky because
It
you're
is, yeah.
using people, paying them under the table because you can, because they
Pennies,
don't
yeah.
have any legal recourse.
Yes,
Okay, they can't go
exactly.
to a lawyer. I mean, they
Nope.
could, I guess, and be anonymous, but that takes money that they don't have. Like, you just are limited in like what you can do because you can't. There's so much shit you just can't do. You're just existing. You're just
Yeah,
existing,
wow.
and so you can't do these things. So like the cost benefit is amazing for these companies because they don't pay shit
Mm-hmm.
and they get everything. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I'm not
They
paying
get their
fucking
labor.
healthcare. I'm not
Yep.
fucking paying your social security. I'm not paying into whatever 401k. I'm not doing shit. I'm not doing
Nothing.
anything.
Nope.
So
Wow.
and you working for me, you're making pennies on a dollar. I'm fucking raking in the money, and so profits are up, baby. And like all of
Yeah.
a sudden, but here's the funny thing, right? Now all this shit that's been going on, this illegal deportation, all this kind of shit that's going on, all of a sudden that workforce is fucked and it's out of here. The
Yeah, they stopped
price of
showing up.
shit,
People stopped
the
showing up.
price of shit,
Yep.
and
Yep.
give it a month or two, the
Oh
price
yeah.
of shit is gonna get so ridiculous, and people are gonna just blame Obama for it. So
Yeah, they
like,
are.
you know,
Well,
easy
Trump's gonna
peasy,
do it, and then his people
lemon
are gonna listen.
squeezy.
Yeah. No, no lemon squeezy, because ain't nobody picking lemons no more. Ain't nobody
No.
out here fucking look. And I hate that. I do hate that narrative. I'm not gonna sit here and like, there's that narrative that, oh, immigrants are taking our jobs, right? Oh, the immigrants
Mhm.
are taking our jobs. The immigrants are taking our
Tucker
jobs, and yeah, but then are you gonna go out and pick
No.
lemons, and are you going
For
to go work the
for a
fields and pick
dollar an hour,
apples
no.
for $1 an
Yeah.
hour? No, right? You're not going to
Yeah.
do that. So when these people stop showing up, like you said, those jobs become vacant. What's going to happen? I think I know what's going to happen. I think
Mm.
the reason why they're trying to force people out of their jobs. I think the reason why they're going after this DEI thing, code for black and brown, code for the
Mm.
other, code for different, right? I
Mm.
think that these all are being put in place so that we become the workforce that has to go out there and start picking again. Again. Notice I said again.
Right, right.
I think there is a plan in place to recoup or refill that vacancy that they're currently creating.
Uh-huh.
I think that
Uh-huh.
vacancy has our names written on it, and I think that's the plan. Honestly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think the plan is to strip away DEI protection, strip away affirmative action, strip it away to the point where you can hire whoever you want, quote unquote, which will be straight white people. You can hire all of them, and you can tell the blacks to get out. You can tell the Latinos to get out. You can tell the Asians to get out. You can tell, well, not all Asians, just the brown ones. You can tell these people to fuck off. And
Yeah.
now you're at home and you're struggling. You can't make ends meet. You can't work. Nobody will hire you. What do you do? What do you do? You go get a job working construction under the table for pennies on a dollar. You go get a job down at the like farm shoveling shit and picking grapes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, to make ends
That's just
meet.
that's just my 2 cents. That's
Well,
just
we'll see how
what I think the
the
plan is.
appetite of we'll see the appetite of Americans and how much they
I'd
can
rather die, bro. I'd rather die, and if I got to take a few with me, I'm doing it. I'm not playing. I'd rather
look.
die, bro. You're not putting me back in no field. I know. Nah, dog. Nah. Hey,
Look,
Miami New Times. I did some work for them in the past.
look, here's the thing. If ICE agents arrest your family, I want to give you actually some helpful tips that you can actually do in all
That's cool.
seriousness.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you do is like track your family. Like if they
Okay.
get taken away, you get provided a number and you can keep track of them, where they're going, where they're at, where they're being held, so they don't get lost in the shuffle. It's fairly important.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
then the next thing that you do is that you can get a lawyer. Now the problem is like people get scared because they think it's like a I mean, it can be really obviously expensive, but there are free services and really low cost options. So that it is a thing you just have to like do research, and there's a lot of options out there. So just kind of Google that. Um,
Can we put some of these links in the description of
yeah,
this
yeah, I'll
video?
put this. Yeah,
That's cool.
I'll put this
Yeah.
all up.
Yeah.
And then obviously just keeping in contact with your family member who's gone. Just make sure that you're understanding what they're doing, what's going on with them. Get document things, whatever the case may be. Because yeah, once they're put in the system, 9 times out of 10, they're halfway out the door. So it's like they probably
Yeah.
will get deported, and yeah.
Wow.
So whatever you know you're getting like plucked out of your life, and there's a lot of loose ends. Like you have whatever rent you're paying, whatever job you
Yeah.
had, whatever. There's a lot of stuff that
Your
needs
spouse is still at home. Don't know where,
your kids.
why
Yeah,
aren't you
your
coming
kids are
home? You got kids in school. You got that need to be picked up.
that
Like that's
happens.
absolutely crazy. I saw.
That literally happens. That we're, you said say how to you said last thing you said to your parents was like good morning, whatever. And then by the time you get back home, they're gone. And like
Yeah.
and it happens is kids sometimes they get both parents get taken away. So
That's
uh
crazy. That's
yeah, it's
crazy.
pretty heartless, this kind of shit that's going on. But you know
That's a good way to.
latinos
It's
wanted
really
this
heartless, bro.
latinos wanted this shit, so we'll see how that like what that becomes later on, and like how that
Not just
like
not just for them, but for you too. That's what sucks, bro.
yeah.
And for all of us, right? Because I saw like, here's the thing. I see these things, and I see these like the guy that you just showed me, and then like the lady that was crying that was talking about
Mm-hmm.
like she voted for Trump, but why is
Mm-hmm.
he doing this? Like you see these stuff, and your first inclination is to laugh, right? Haha, you voted for this. This is what you want.
Yeah.
Especially I know in my community, and I'm talking directly to the black community now, right? Like I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Haha, you stupid Latinos, you voted for this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, nah, bro. Like honestly, because when I saw there was a Haitian man that was just deported, right? Like it's not just Latinos. And I understand that you wanna mock, and you wanna point and make fun to make yourself feel better. But bro, they're coming after us too. They're not just gonna stop at Latinos. They're coming after us as well. So our job as people who've been disenfranchised in this country and has been the butt of the joke, has had the boots on our neck for as long as it has been. Our job is to reach our hands out to our brothers and be like, our brown brother, our Latino brothers, and be like, nah, let me show you how to get through this. We've been here. We've been here before. We've been, and I know Latinos have had their own struggles in this country, right? But when it comes to police brutality, when it comes to just historically getting the shaft in this country, Black people have bared the brunt of it. And so to sit back and laugh because haha, you voted for this, you're getting yours, you're gonna learn what it's like. It's like, nah, bro, like that shouldn't be the case, because it's not gonna stop there. It is not gonna stop there. Your Black ass is on the list. I promise. So it's a time for solidarity. Like real talk. Right? It's a time for solidarity. No, let's reach out across the line. That's what we do, right? Like,
so there was the post that I made a TikTok post of me reacting to that lady, and I was like, because I said I felt sorry. Like I was like, immediately I do want to laugh. I want to be like, you dumb bitch. Like, of course, that's like the initial thing, but like, so I think the more accurate thing, the sadness isn't for what's happening, because it's like you needed to be more aware that this was a possibility. So the sadness isn't in the action of what's happening. That sadness is in the like the person's like soul almost. It's like, dude, I feel sad for your like your being, because you're like, you really didn't know, you really thought you
were going to be exempt.
You really thought like this wasn't you or something, like you're not part of the world or something. And that's where the sadness comes from. It's not more like, oh, she's sad because she might get deported. I'm like, no, like it's not the end of the world. Like, really, it isn't. It's fucked up and all this kind of shit. But the sadness is like the deeper human thing, where it's just like, it's just not gonna, like you said, it's not gonna stop at that. It's not gonna be
exactly.
It's gonna be
look
worse.
At where you got. That's where I think that's for me. That's where the empathy comes from. It's not that, oh, this person was affected, like, because you can say it's easy to laugh at that person. It's easy to laugh at that guy who had immediately who voted for Trump and then boom, leopard ate his face, to borrow a phrase that you said. It's easy to laugh at that dude, but what becomes sad is that because he voted for it, so it's easy to laugh at him. But the shitty part is there are people who didn't vote for it who are going through the same exact thing, and they're just like, what do I do? I didn't vote for this. I'm not about to sit out here and appeal to Trump. Like, I didn't vote for this. This isn't what I voted for. There are people who didn't vote for this and don't even know what's going on. Who are just living their day-to-day lives and then getting snatched up. Like, what just happened? How did that happen? And because of idiots like that, and not idiots. I don't want to keep calling the man an idiot. I mean, he is because of other reasons, but he was clearly not a smart person. Clearly not a smart person. But I'm not calling him an idiot because of his political affiliation. Let's just put it that way. All right. So this idiot who then voted for Trump, and the consequences for him feel just. They do. And so I would all day laugh at that guy in private. I'm trying not to do that on the podcast anymore. I don't want to be a jerk like that. But in private, yes, I will laugh at that dude. But then I will also feel bad for the 50 people who didn't vote for Trump, who are also in that same camp, who's going through the same thing. All the people that's being detained in that Miramar facility that they're talking about, I'm sure not all of them voted for Trump. I mean, it's Florida, so maybe. But, like, let's go to California. Let's go to LA. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Let's go to other parts of the country.
Let's go to somewhere else where it's a little less Trumpy. But yeah, dude, like, that's sad. That sucks for them.
It does suck.
Sucks for people like you. Like, I'm worried about you, and I'm worried about your family, and I'm worried about my family.
They're gonna have to fucking look. We're fine. Like, there's nobody illegal here. There's none of that stuff.
They don't care.
But they want to repeal that birthright shit, or they want to do some. They better fucking. They gotta kill me, man. Because if
that's what I'm saying, I'd rather die, bro.
I swear to God, dude, if that becomes a thing, I'm going out, bro. I'm going
Yeah.
out with the
Look,
bing bang.
I think I'm gonna put it this. I'll put it this way to you, bro. I am very left leaning. I'm a peaceful dude. I know what radicalization looks like, and I've seen people radicalized. And I'll tell you right now, you want to fast track me to radicalization? Try to put me back in the field. I would rather die. I would rather die, my friend. So
I believe you. I
yeah,
100% believe
I'm dead ass serious, dog. Like,
you.
nah, I'm not going. I'm not going back to that, bro. We got people. I got kids. I got a kid. Nah, you're not about to strip me. Look, I.
But that look, let me tell you, I've always said this. And I mentioned this before, where in college, specifically in college, is a lot more radical. Where I was like,
Mhm,
you
yeah,
know, but those things haven't left. Like it's not like it's
exactly.
gone.
That's what I'm
It's not
saying.
like
They're
it's
there.
gone.
They're
They're
there.
there.
I'll go. I'll go.
So
I'll go march and I'll go protest and I'll get out. I'll get off. I'll get off my ass. I'll get after it. You know what I'm saying? You want to see
yeah.
me? You want to see me become an enemy of the state, though? Make the state my enemy. Don't do that, bro, because I will fucking die for this shit. I don't care. I sit in here and I watch other countries rioting, and I'm like, why can't we do that? I want that. I want that for us. Don't give
Yeah.
me a fucking reason.
Yeah. 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 No, that's what's there's only so much um that people can take, and
I
it's a
agree.
tipping point,
Hmm.
and that tipping point is different for different people.
Yes.
And the way that things are headed, it's like, man, it feels
Close to
the
the edge,
pressures,
right?
feel it, the
Feeling like
pressures.
we might tip a little bit, and
uh,
and,
no,
and
because
I'm not
like,
again.
look, if it's just a very real possibility. I don't know,
Yeah.
but for ICE or something like to stop me in the street, for
Hmm.
me, like whatever, I have crazy problems with the figures of authority.
Yeah,
Like
you
I
do.
have I have a smart mouth. I don't get myself in trouble. I've every time I've gotten in, with something with the police, shit, it's never ended crazy bad, but I've been put in cuffs, and I get threatened to, like, the cops will literally threaten to beat the shit out of you if you don't shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
They're not
yeah,
gentle,
yeah.
like
No,
looking out
no,
for
they
you.
are
They're
not.
like, so I've been told
Yeah,
plenty of
that's
times with plenty of cops
crazy.
to shut the fuck up, and like I won't. You know, I won't shut the fuck up,
You have to
and
make
because
me.
there's only so much they can do too. Like they know that too. That there's only so much they can do. Like you can't like do shit just because I'm talking. You know what I mean? But then they
Mm,
can't. It just depends, right? It just
mm,
really depends. Yeah,
depends on the
I know.
cop. Yeah.
It depends on the cop, and depends what the situation looks like. So, like,
Mm,
that being said, I do have that. Now, I've never been in a worse situation, but I can't imagine that, like, some ice racist dickhead does, comes. I don't know how I'll react to that, dude. Like, it's not gonna be friendly. I'm not gonna be like, oh, of course, sir. Like, I never talk
yeah.
like that to the cop. Like, personally, I don't do that, sir. Shit, I don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't
Nah.
disrespect. I'm not
No.
like
No. No.
fucking calling you
No.
an asshole, but
No.
I'm not trying
Unless
to
you're
be
being an
homies,
asshole.
man. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to be homies. And the second a cop gets smart, I've said what I needed to say and shit like that. Like, because fuck that, man. I'm not gonna get disrespected by no fucking pig, man. Fuck all that. Fuck
Yep.
all this. Fuck this system. Burn it down to the fucking ground. Flip my shit. Ugh.
Yeah. But see, that's and I'm not a violent person. I'm not a violent person at all. Right.
Yeah,
But
well,
like you
neither
said,
am
I
I.
do feel
I do
like
have
there.
anger.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's a scale, like you said, and I feel like there's a tipping point, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like a lot of us non-violent but also passionate people are starting to
Yeah.
feel, like you said, the pressure of the scale being tipped, and we're starting to wonder to ourselves, would you die for this? Like, honestly. And that's what I mean. But like, we're starting to think that. I know conversations
Yeah.
that I'm having with people. Would you die for this? Could you die
Yeah.
for this? If things were to get bloody, could you be a part of that? And
Yeah, push to the
that's
edge, man. Push to the edge.
yeah, you know what I'm
I
saying? And
think a lot of people would be like. It's not, I wouldn't even put myself in this like crazy spot. Like, yeah, man. Like,
that's
if
my
something
point.
were to happen, like let's say my family gets deported on some unjust shit, You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Even though we're like
Yeah.
legally here, like we should
No,
have
no,
those
but
issues.
hear me out though.
But that's not the problem. The things that these are possibilities.
These
It's
are
not.
possible, and that's
This
what I'm
is not out
saying.
of the
I'm not.
realm anymore. This isn't some
No,
like. Yeah.
and that's my point. My point is that I'm not talking about you as an individual or me as an
Yeah.
individual. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the collective. The collective is
Yeah.
starting to think that way. People are
Yeah.
starting to be like, hey,
Yeah.
if things were to pop off, if it got to a point, like I said, when the scale has been tipped, when the pressure's too much, when the protests start to become less about asking and more about demanding, when the
Yeah.
protests go from, hey, this is unfair, to eat the rich.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at that Luigi thing, and look at the public perception and all that.
That's my point right
That
there.
is not what the powers that be were expecting.
Nope,
People to
that's
be
they
like, oh,
snatch his ass off TV quick.
they're not eating this shit sandwich that we usually give them.
Nope.
They're like, oh no, yeah, no, fuck that. Like,
Yep.
so that
snatched him
was
away quick, because people are starting to wonder, could I stomach a French style revolution? Could I go out into the streets with the hundreds of thousands that currently protesting, marching, that are currently fighting fascism in Germany? Could that be me in America? Could I do that? Could I join with like-minded individuals who are willing to get off their
I think
couch?
so. That's what I'm saying.
I
think the answer is yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Especially as
And
you don't know what people are willing to. Even yourself. You don't know what you're willing to do.
And so that's my point. My point is that I do think there are a lot more of us out there than.
Look, I
is
love
being let on
ending
at
the
this point.
podcast on a high point, especially when it comes to revolution. Okay, the revolution will not be YouTubed. All right.
Hey,
so
another one. God, you zinging today, dog.
Thank you.
Zinging today, my friend.
Thank you. Look, I've been writing a little bit. I've been getting into the zone. I've been getting into the creative space, and I think like I'm greasing the wheels. I'm greasing the old mind wheels. All right,
I like that.
With a little bit of mind juice. Okay, it's all part of the process.
Mind juice.
So look, thank you again for talking to me, Anthony, for always inspiring me, making me see things from a different light, and all the people that listen to us, which has been cool because I think we've been getting we've been in this new momentum shift that we've been doing, and it's been pretty cool to have people really like engaging, which has been fun.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you later.
Peace.